It's nice to finally be back here in India. My name is Jay Mani, and I'm the head of product for Poco Global. And today, I'm really honored to be presenting our first product, the Poco F1. This has literally been one of my dream phones. That is something that I've wanted to make for years now. And with Poco, we were able to start from scratch and make product decisions that result in a very different phone from what you see on the market today. So even if you think you already know everything about the phone, stick with us. We want to spend some time to explain to you why we did these things and why we think it results in a truly awesome experience. So let's get started? Yeah. All right. When it comes to performance is the chipset. And so the first decision we made was to use Qualcomm's top-of-the-line Snapdragon 845. And there are actually very few phones sold in India today that are using this chipset. But since we're focused on speed, paper inside, and it's placed on top of the chipset, which cools down your phone much more quickly, allowing it to run at higher speeds for much longer. So let's check this out inside the phone. So here's a quick illustration. The SoC is up there on the top left, and this is in a situation playing a game, starts generating some heat. So in the Poco F1, we have this copper heatsink that sits on top of it. This is the blue line here. We can actually run that again. So this is the copper heatsink, the blue line. Run that again. So as you can see, what happens here is the heat generated by the SoC is distributed more evenly throughout the phone and cools down the CPU, so it can run at peak performance for a longer period of time. And when we compared this thermal performance to in our labs, liquid cool dissipates heat 300% faster than devices without it. And this is really useful in practice. And so because of liquid cool, paired with the top-of-the-line Snapdragon 845, the Poco F1 is able to sustain peak performance for a longer period of time. And the big, flashy benchmark scores are nice, but we believe that its sustained performance is what really matters. So let's see how this translates in results. Okay, so let's talk about my favorite thing, which is battery life. And for years, this has been a key feature that everybody tells us they love. It's one of the reasons why Redmi phones have been so successful. But typical flagship phones compromise on battery life. Generally speaking, in a flagship phone, you usually get around 3,000 mAh. And for some reason, if you want great battery life, you generally have to buy a mid-range phone. But since we were building the Poco F1 from the ground up, without any of this baggage, this trend really didn't make any sense to us. And so with the Poco F1, we put that same amazing 4,000 mAh battery that everybody loves. And this is a key product decision that we made early on. It seems like common sense, and almost everybody, whether it's enthusiasts or your mom or dad, everybody wants better battery life. And yet, in the race to outdo one another, flagship devices seem to have forgotten this. And this 4,000 mAh battery is 30% higher than other popular models, things like the S9. And this isn't just supported. We're including the 9-volt 2-amp charger in the box. Of course, we couldn't reveal all of this stuff when we were talking about it at the time, but we did listen to what you guys told us. And I think it pretty much speaks for itself. There's a couple of other things we can show you later. So again, this comes in the box, standard. All right, 4G Plus, and I think this is something that's pretty new. We worked really closely with Qualcomm on this to make the network performance fast. This is one of the first devices with 4G Plus here in India. So I can explain a little bit about it. Typically, your phone is connected to a single radio band. But with 4G Plus, it combines radio frequencies, different radio frequencies, to give you both faster network performance and better coverage. And it's important to note, one of the reasons why this is not very common here in India is the combinations that are required, the spectrum combinations that are required to support 4G Plus here are pretty unique. They're actually not really used anywhere else in the world. Thing other than speed, many of you make VoLTE calls, and this is where 4G Plus can also help you a lot. So the Poco F1, of course, supports dual VoLTE, and for those of you that do make VoLTE calls, you may have noticed that you tend to see more call drops indoors. And this, again, is where being able to combine two different frequencies lets us take advantage of both things. You get the high quality audio you're used to, and then better coverage indoors from the lower frequency. So it's really, really useful. You'll see the icon once you get the phone in the top right of your display. Let us know what you think. It's a really new thing, and we're really glad to be able to bring it to India in one of the first devices ever. All right, let's talk about some other stuff with speed. Memory. So it's up to 8 gigabytes of LPDDR4X RAM, up to 256 gigabytes of internal storage. And I want to point out this bottom thing over here. It's the UFS 2.1 storage. This is an area where having access to Xiaomi's scale and particularly supply chain is critical for our success. We're able to take advantage of that and ensure that all Poco F1s across the board will ship with UFS 2.1 storage. Another thing that you guys told us, I ran a bunch of polls on this a couple of months ago. Some of you will remember this. Again, with 256 gigabytes of storage, you might think that people don't need it, but we support an SD card here. It's expandable up to 256 gigabytes, but it's more for being able to transfer content, not really to expand your content, and this is something that you all told us. So this is a hybrid SIM, and we made sure to add it in based on your feedback. Yeah, that's good. I should mention again that this is one of the few flagship devices that support SD cards. Usually, you have to go to a mid-range device to get that kind of thing. All right, let's do a quick summary on the product. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we made a bunch of decisions very early on. We wanted 845, we wanted great performance, but sustained performance, so we used liquid cool. And of course, we wanted the 4K battery. We have top-of-the-line RAM and ROM insured across every single device, 4G Plus in one of the first devices here in India, and QC 3.0 just to top it all off. Pretty crazy? All right, so we have over here all the components. This is the standard stuff, the proximity sensor, the 20 megapixel front camera, but to the left of the earpiece, we've added these components for infrared face unlock. And this gives you face unlock even in the dark. So we have two things here. There's the infrared light, which you'll see once you start using the phone, and then there's the lens, which actually takes the image. So we have a video here. I was the model for this video. So let's take a look at how well it works. I mentioned I was the model because I'm really not good at modeling. The technology is a lot cooler than my facial reaction. I think the best facial reaction is at the end, which is the last shot we did, so I was super happy about it. But in our internal lab tests, we've measured in completely dark environments, face unlock works in less than 0.4 seconds. Now, the problem with the regular face unlock that's done through the normal front camera is that in the dark, it just doesn't work. And if it works, you have to just max out the brightness on the display, which is the last thing you'd want to do when it's night. So face unlock with the Poco F1 works really well, even in the dark. All right, so I mentioned what's going on up at the top. If you don't like the notch, you can just change it in settings. It's pretty simple. All right, I mentioned audio. Let's talk a little bit more about audio. Poco F1 has Tearout HD sound, so you get, again, really high quality sound. It has, we talked a couple months ago about Smart PA, which is a smart power amplifier that helps you get really loud audio through the speaker without any distortion. In the Poco F1, we actually have dual Smart PA, so it's even better than any device we've shipped before. And the audio during
we are also very happy to mention that Poco F1 will be made in India.
Thank you.